Okay, on the count of 3, everyone say their favorite video game. 1, 2, Perfect Dark.
Okay. What's the best game console of all time? 1, 2,
Nintendo Virtual Boy.
Oh my god. Okay. Name the greatest lead character in gaming history. 1, 2.
Gex the Gecko.
What? Do we just become best friends?
Yep.
Do you guys want to go do some karate in the garage?
Yep. All right, I'll grab the nunchucks. Welcome back to another edition of the Karate in the Garage podcast. I'm your host, Mason Merrill, and joining me today again is my 2 co-hosts, Weston Toth and Aaron Bowen. How's it going, Aaron?
I am super freaking duper. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. Weston, what's up, man?
Man, I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. I'm doing awesome. Yeah, we've just been doing some work and a little bit of a dreary day here in North Texas.
Is it? It's always so nice and sunny.
How?
There.
I mean, it's just like overcast. It's not really raining, but we're supposed to get thunderstorms later. So
It's literally like 80 degrees here and sunny with a breeze, or like 85.
Oh.
So how is it?
Yeah, it's
how
like
is it cold
perfect
there?
here.
yeah, it's a little chilly here. It's not even 70 degrees right now. Crazy.
Oh, nuts. That's Texas.
like-
That's how big Texas is.
It's like nice and sunny.
It's actually
here
Europe.
Yeah.
Hashtag global warming.
This is actually the Weather Channel now, by the way, guys. This is not a gaming podcast anymore. This is actually, we got bought out by the Weather Channel.
I'm down.
I would actually be okay with that.
They give us $1 million, sure.
Yeah. So Aaron, I hear you have a sequel to our real estate
Oh my
a
gosh.
real estate segment, I guess, that we're doing on this podcast now
All
after
right,
the
all
weather
right.
segment, before the
Yes.
video game segment.
So as you guys know, I'm selling my house. And so we had a showing the other day at like, I don't know, it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever. And so we drive into town, which is like, we live in the country. So driving into town, it's like 20 minutes away.
Was that the country?
It's the country, yeah. So we're driving into town and just kind of, meandering about a little bit, going to go get some food. We stop over, just grabbing some Arby's because we can't go into an actual restaurant right now because of the COVIDs. And I get an alert from the security camera, click it on really quick, and these people are leaving the house after they had looked at it. Well, I looked and watched the guy lock the interior door.
No.
Now, the interior door to my house, I don't have a key for that.
Oh, man.
It's just locked. And
Wait. So there's no key ever? Like there's no key?
well, the key's inside the house. Like I don't keep it on me because we don't ever lock the door. We just lock the outside door. There's no point in locking. We have we have like the outside door, and then we have like the mudroom foyer where we have our like shoes and coats and stuff, and then we have the interior door that goes into the dining area, right? So we never lock that door. I just don't bother because I just lock the outside doors. It's fine. And so, so I see them on the security camera locking the door, and I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Because right after that, we had another showing. They were like back to back. And so we start rushing home. Like, we were in line at Arby's. Like, I was ready to eat. We hadn't eaten all day. And so I had to hike it back to the house, and it starts pouring rain. It's like some thunderstorms all day, basically. We check all the windows because we're thinking we're going to have to climb into a window. None of the windows on the bottom floor are unlocked. So I know I shut all the upstairs windows. So I had to pull my 30-foot extension ladder out of the shed, hike it up onto the window, climb up the window into the window in the pouring rain, and foist it open so that I could like try and yeet myself through into the upstairs hallway without falling down the stairs at the same time.
Oh,
and then climb my like soaking wet ass down and unlock the front door so that these people could come look at our house. It was ridiculous. Like it was so upsetting. It was very obnoxious. It was very obnoxious. But
that
but
sounds
I
like
think
a nightmare.
I think they like the house though, so I guess we got that going for us, which is nice. But yeah, it was crazy, dude. It was crazy.
Nice. Well, I'm glad it all worked out though, and you got in your house. You're not doing this podcast outside in the rain.
No, I am in the forest right now, but that's a personal choice. That's just me trying to connect with nature right now.
That's just a side thing. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, it's a
All
little
right.
side hustle. I'm hunting right now, actually, at the same time. So if you hear a gun go off, don't worry about it. It's fine.
All right. Well, so a terrible situation segues into another terrible situation, which is our game this week.
Oh man! All right, here we go. Here we go.
All right, so we are talking this week Perfect Dark for the Nintendo 64, and this one was a doozy. So I'm gonna do a little upfront information, get that out of the way. Kind of, the developer was Rare, did a lot of Nintendo 64 games. The platform was Nintendo 64. The publisher was Rare, so it was developed and published by the same people. And then it came out in May 22nd of 2000. This was a first-person shooter, and it was a single or multiplayer game, whichever way you decided to choose. So, Aaron, do you want to give a little background on the game?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, what do you want as far as background? Like, what do you want me to?
Kind
say
of just
here?
like, what's the setting, what's the story type thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I mean, basically the setting. You're playing Joanna Dark here. And long story short, you're going after some aliens. It turns into like this whole big alien conspiracy thing with the you got the Mayan aliens, which are like the gray aliens, and then you got the Skadar, which are like the bad guy aliens essentially. And you're trying to stop them from taking over Earth. This is set only 3 years in the future, so this is actually realistically plausible as far as happening. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's kind of a goofy alien game that kind of takes itself down a little bit of a rabbit hole, I think, at some points. Now, in the middle of the game, it just kind of spirals into craziness.
Okay, so yeah, it's just kind of for me, build up wasn't that great as far as it all went. You just kind of launched into the game, and there's a lot of it's a lot of figuring to do, for at least for me in the beginning it was. But
yeah, it doesn't really explain itself.
Yeah, so as far as the gameplay goes, like we talked, it was a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
What was kind of like one of the things that jumped out to you at first, Weston, with it? Like when you first kind of start the game?
Well, so it has kind of like a drop you in the campaign mode.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can start like the obviously like there's the challenges and this and that. I thought like alongside of what you thought is they didn't really set you up for like what like where you are, what you're doing. And then also I don't know why, but they put one of the creepiest characters in the game like 30 seconds in with the guy with the lab coat.
Yeah.
And you just, dude, his voice was like, "Hey there."
He's like the guy from Family Guy.
Hey, Joanna, you want to come back here? And I'm like, no, I don't want to go with you, please. Like, no. It was super strange, but
yeah,
it was. You know, the craziest thing about this game is we all remember playing GoldenEye growing up. Well, this is actually like the spiritual successor to that. So it's running on the same engine that GoldenEye ran, except just like a little bit nicer. And that being said, the graphics were not good, and more than anything else, the trying to play the controls on this game after knowing what just like I don't know, a PlayStation 1 or 2 game like with DualShock analogs, it was horrible. It was the most gruesome experience of my life.
I wanted to kill myself playing this game. It was so bad.
Yeah, so I played this on a actual N64 controller, so I was getting the real feel of how you would have played it back then. And you know, for me, the controls weren't as big of a deal. Like the inverted looking, I hate inverted looking.
Oh my god, yes.
Getting it, yeah.
Couldn't you get away with that? Because there's a look where you don't have to invert look.
Yeah, you could change.
It still did it.
Just
like,
no.
It was still all janky. I don't know. I couldn't.
Let me tell you right now, and I'm gonna just vent about the controls before you try to say they're okay. There's four single player controls that you could do, different configurations, and then there was 4 2-player controllers, and then you could obviously do the inversion as well. And some people play inverted. That's like a normal console thing, even up to this day. Not one of the 4 had the controls, like the strafe and the backwards and forward on the left stick left stick, and then the look up, down, right, left, like with the aim on all of the C buttons. Not one of them. There was 4 configurations, and somehow they managed to not get one of the 4 correct.
It's like it's literally like you're an accountant, and then all of a sudden you get drafted by the military, and you just have to figure out how to do something completely different, like from everything you've ever known. It's so weird. Like, I don't know how 15-year-old me loved this game so much. Playing it made me want to throw my controller through the window. It was awful.
Yeah. You know what? One of the biggest thing with me at the beginning of how a game begins is like really is what pulls me in, right? So I'm like, okay, you know, that we're in this complex wherever this is their, I guess it's their base, and you talk to this one guy and he gives you a tour around the facility. I'm thinking, okay, so I'm going to go into this room, we're going to get loaded, and we're going to start a mission. No, that's not how it works. I spent probably 30 minutes wandering around that facility. What do I do? How do I start this game?
I did too. I did the exact same thing. I was like, for surely I'm going to talk to this guy, and then he's gonna just say, "All right, ready to go, Joanna," and I'd be like, "Sure, ready to go, my mission." Nope, didn't go that way.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of cool for, like the facility itself. I was like, yeah, it's pretty big and elaborate, kind of thing. But there's nobody really there, except for the 4 people that you can run into and that are just creepy, and then there's like the training room, which you could kind of get your legs with kind of fighting and combat type stuff. But like, so I wandered around there, and then just to figure out, you just press start and start the mission,
Right.
So, and that's how the game starts. And so once I finally got into that point, I was like, okay, now we can kind of start the game. But that was such a weird thing to me on, there was no kind of like start point to the game, like in the beginning there, So I was like, what's the point of this? Like, just throw me into that first mission when the game starts, Yeah,
or just say, hey, this is your home base. You can, input cheats here. You can practice this. But when you're ready to get started, press start and start your campaign. Okay, cool. Sounds good.
All that
they just go, here you go.
Yeah, all that whole thing was just an elaborate selection screen. Like press start. Okay, now select your game mode. And that's just not the way to do things, in my opinion, for a game like this. And that's one of the things GoldenEye didn't do. There was nothing like that. You just started the game in GoldenEye, which I remember vividly. But this was supposed to, like you said, the spiritual successor of this game, so much better, all yada yada yada. But it just you got to hook me from the beginning, and it just did not do that. Once I finally got going, I was like, okay, now I'm moving, and things are kind of moving along. But that whole thing turned me off right from the beginning.
I will say really quickly, I just want to interject as far as the GoldenEye thing is concerned, because we also haven't played GoldenEye in 15 years. So
I completely
in my
agree.
personal opinion, if we sat down, the 3 of us, and played GoldenEye for 2 hours multiplayer, and then sat down and played Perfect Dark for 2 hours multiplayer, we would have substantially more fun with Perfect Dark, because the weapons are really cool and things like that. And it is, and like the codes that you can do are a lot of fun, with like the big head and the paintball and things like that. Versus,
but you can do all that in GoldenEye too.
Well, can you? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess you could.
Oh,
That's right. All right, fair enough. But anyway, I guess my point is just that I think Perfect Dark as like a multiplayer game is more fun, from what I remember, than GoldenEye as a multiplayer game. I never want to play either of them ever again after playing this. But I'm just saying, as far as that goes.
That's like saying, like, hey man, remember the time when before we were born, when there was black and white pictures without sound? That was really cool. Like, that's the same thing. It's like, I mean, without sound at all and just moving pictures, of course at some point, like, people were like, wow, this is really nice. But then you put sound, or you put a controller that actually works, or controls, or anything like more, and you're like, wait, like, this actually is something that's unwatchable now. Because it doesn't have sound. Like, that's I think, to me, the gaping difference of some of these, because there's older games, like, even because the next shooter I think we should play that would be, it's definitely old, but I think will hold up, is GoldenEye Double Fire on the PlayStation 2. Nightfire. Because I think, at least from my memory, that I think that game will hold up because it has a lot of these same things. It's definitely, I mean, it's ancient. What is it? It's still probably 15 years old, but I think it would hold up. This one just didn't. I mean, it just it skipped. Like at the time, I'm sure, and I remember playing it. You're like, yeah, this is a lot of fun and stuff, but it's like watching a movie without sound. It's bad.
It's like getting into a car from like the 30s and thinking, oh, this is neat, this is really cool. It's like a restored car from the 30s, and then it only goes 35 miles an hour, and you're like, oh, this kind of sucks. Actually, never mind.
Yeah, it doesn't, and it doesn't have brakes.
Yeah, and no seatbelts either. You're just gonna die.
There's only 4 gears to shift instead of 5.
Yeah. There's that 12-cylinder getting 2 miles to the gallon. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's cool to look at and be like, oh, I remember that time. And then when you actually start driving it, you're like, no, I don't like this time.
Yeah, exactly.
And to note, there was a remaster of this game on Xbox in 2010. So
was there?
Yeah, I'd like to check that one out and see how they changed it, because I do like the premise of like you were saying, the premise of the game is really intriguing. The whole agent, badass chick, doing her thing, kind of thing, and but like just the way that it was we've played a lot of games in this era, and it was not thought. This is not thought out well. I'm sure a bunch of programmers spent a bunch of time programming this game, but man, it just maybe it translated at the time, but just like I don't know, man. Like I just don't even think I would have liked it then. I don't think I would have been able to like really figure out the same things then, especially if it took me a while now,
Yeah. So. See, I played the junk out of this game when I was a kid, but like trying to play this as an adult with as many advancements has been made, and I mean like literally almost just the controls, even like like we talked about last week, like graphics and stuff like that. It's like, bad graphics are bad. It's not necessarily that big of a deal, but like this game like aims for you, which is kind of annoying because I can't just aim myself, which I'd rather do. I have to like hold a button down to switch to melee. It's a pistol whip instead of it's just janky. Like it just feels clunky when I play it, and I don't like that.
It's not made for the fast FPS type person. Like, I'm sure I don't play a whole lot of those, but like I'm sure you guys are really good with the mouse and the keyboard and all that kind of stuff. But like, it's not made for that. It's really like slow and kind of moving around and trying to figure your way. And like you said, the auto aim feature, like I don't mind that as much just because it's so clunky. But at the same time, like it was not like it wasn't a fun experience,
Yeah. It's auto aim is necessary. It's not wanted. It's necessary because the controls are clunky.
There we go.
I don't want it though.
Another game that does auto aim, like, because I don't like auto aim either, but there were some games like back in this era that needed it, and this was definitely one of them. But it didn't even do it that great. Like, if you guys remember Star Wars Battlefront, that game had a little bit of auto aim in it. But it wasn't so bad where it would throw you off. It kind of just drug your cursor if you were pretty, pretty close to the target.
Or even that Star Wars game we played back last year with it was a Nintendo 64 game. It had some auto aim features. That I wouldn't call that one an FPS because you could see the character, so you weren't right in his shot. But it's not an FPS.
It's a third person shooter. But either way, like it did have some auto aim, but it didn't like actually that didn't really bother me. But for this one, it was weird. Like you would try to get close, and it would like kind of like pull you in like a magnet. And if you even like or you went like a little bit too far over it would slingshot your
out of
the dot like out of the way, and it would just like it wasn't fluid where it kind of just pulled you in a little bit here and there. It would like pull you all the way in, and if you moved your like your thumbstick really harshly to try to like turn or something like that, it would slingshot the thing like across the screen. So even that wasn't that it was needed, but it wasn't good. It wasn't done well.
Yeah. And then there was things like when you had the like the camera, like even in the first mission where you have like that floating orbital camera and the weird fisheye lens that it has, trying to navigate with that, and just stuff like that. Like there was just so many odd choices, I guess, that, back in the day, I mean, this got like all perfect scores across the board, basically. Like it's like the lowest score I see this getting when it came out is a 95% out of 100. So it's super critically acclaimed. People are praising the graphics and the AI and things like that. So yeah, 20 years ago, this is 20 years ago Friday that this came out. So 20 years ago, yeah, I mean, maybe it was fine, but like it just does not hold up at all at the end of the day.
No.
Yeah, and there are games that hold up that are in this kind of type of genre. You know, like they're definitely that. So I don't think our looking at it now versus back then is flawed. I think I think that it's like it's just I think it's how much nostalgia you have tied into this game, like, and how much connection you have to it, because like for me, having zero connection to it, it just wasn't enjoyable to play. So let's kind of just go down the list. We've talked about our gameplay, right? So let's get to graphics. One problem I had with this game, or I mean, I don't know, maybe it was a good thing, but the faces were like, they looked like masks on the bodies.
No,
I'm like, Joanna Dark looks like a 12-year-old boy. Like like I didn't even know that was a female. It's ridiculous,
dude. Some of those first people that were like painted on, I'm like, wait, did they take like some sort of just like picture of the guys that developed it? Which, because they had to have been this creepy back in like the 90s, and then they just painted them on, and they're just like, hey there.
It's like Hannibal Lecter. Like it's just like taking somebody else's face and stapling it onto your face. It's psychotic.
It looks like when you used to play with like MS Paint and you would put a picture over something you kind of drew with the cursor. It was just like a picture on the face, which made it more clear, and I understand the reasoning there. I think, I don't know, I need to look at GoldenEye, but I think it did it better. Like, I think GoldenEye did this better.
I mean, it was 3 years. It was the same engine, and it was 3 years earlier. So I don't know. I think
they tried to make the faces as clear, but I
think we're having some nostalgia over GoldenEye and being like, oh, that was so fun. And I guarantee you, dude, I know you want to play this game, but I guarantee you we're gonna play this game and we're gonna feel if we play GoldenEye, we would feel just as worse.
Don't ruin GoldenEye for yourself right now. Like
let's just think about how good it is.
You're gonna play it and you're gonna hate it. I guarantee
I think when we do eventually, if we get to a GoldenEye, I think it needs to be one of those, you're up here, Weston, or me and Aaron are down there, and we all can sit in a room and play it together.
Yeah,
I can agree with that. And we will, obviously, once Aaron moves there and I come up, then we will be able to have those times at least like once or twice a year to be able to play some games like this. And we can do a bunch of them, but up until that point, I refuse. I refuse.
No,
I'm not touching that game until we're together.
I want to keep loving it for as long as I can.
I need a case of Four Loko, and I need an N64 controller, and that's what I need to be able to get through playing that game.
And by the time your vision's so blurred as to the game and the room is spinning, then the horrible aim won't even matter.
Exactly.
Okay, so the horrible aim will just help you in that moment because your vision will be so blurred. Okay, so as far as the environments, like that first area, there were some neat things that it did with as far as like the floor reflection on the ground floor and things like that, but overall it just was kind of a standard. There was nothing that like popped out in the animation of it all. There were some neat things, but it wasn't horrible to look at, but it wasn't like, oh man, this is cool. This is differentiating from the last place I just was,
Yeah, it's like playing like an old Wolfenstein game.
And that's exactly what I thought with the door openings and things like that. Yeah,
you're just kind of rolling through a maze, and you're like having to hold the button and hoping the door opens. And I find it really annoying that like the reload button and the door opening button were the same button. It's stuff like that. Like it just felt really just like janky. I don't know.
One thing about Wolfenstein, which that I want to play that game too eventually. But like you could see the character's face on the bottom of the screen, like he was like looking around and stuff. Like with this, it kind of felt like that, but there was no face to like look at. I remember that just stood out in my mind.
If you're gonna play the Wolfenstein, play the two newest ones. Don't play.
No, I want to play the old one for retro feel.
Oh, the two newest ones are like the best in the series. Actually, was it there's Wolfenstein and then what's Wolfenstein's 2? I don't remember. It's like sub phrase, but it's amazing. The storyline in those games is incredible. It's actually very good. Because I think Bethesda produced them, so they're really well done. But anyway, we'll
side note. Yep. So so I think as far as graphics, like I said, not much to write home about. There were some cool things, like when you were going into different areas and opening doors, there was like the bunker rooms, where the whole wall would open, kind of thing, and different stuff like that. The computers, they were pretty. I thought they were drawn well, even though they were really repetitive throughout.
Yeah, the layout of the levels is decent, like, because there's a lot of like little secret rooms and things like that, and sometimes there's more than one way to get into an area. To combat whoever you're fighting and things like that. So that's kind of neat too, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. And so so with that, like the graphics, for the game, the face thing was really jacked me up. But as far as the environments, they weren't too horrible. They just weren't anything like to write home about. Like, oh man, that was a cool level. It was like, oh, that was like the same level as the last one, except for it had an elevator in it. Like it's kind of how I viewed it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, same.
Okay, so the sound and the sound here. The one thing that stood out to me is when you shot somebody and they just scream.
Yeah.
Every time.
Oh,
yeah,
it's bad. Yeah,
that was pretty horrible. What'd you guys think about them? What'd you think about the music, Weston?
I know what they were trying to do, and I didn't hate it. It wasn't like just absolutely horrible, but it was kind of like they were trying to make it like suspenseful, like, oh, where's the guys hiding at? And it was kind of like that low melancholy, like with the drums and like the bass, like do. Like. It was kind of like always so in music theory it'd be called like they're just posing questions. It's like where what are we doing here? Like where are we going? Like where are the people at? And then as soon as someone was showed up and you shoot them, like it just was.
I'm like, shouldn't this be like a buff dude if he's like a guard and he's screaming like a little girl?
Yeah, it was
oh
my
funny. God, yeah. It literally sounds like all of these guards just saw like a cockroach, and instead of getting shot, like that's what it sounds like. Ridiculous.
So some of the beginning scene with the keyboard, like it sounded like a real keyboard. The shots they sounded I think correct, like from all the different guns, like the silenced one. I mean, it sounded okay. So sound effects were fine. They just were like not consistently good, obviously.
Yeah.
One thing,
the voice acting was bad too, just in general.
But for that era, it was cool that it did actually have voiced cutscenes.
That is true. Yeah,
which adds to a game for me.
Right, yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, it's like, are we rating this based on 2020 or 2000?
Yeah.
And like for that era, the voice acting was fine. The sound effects were fine because it actually even had voice acting, like you said. Most games now that back then didn't. So that was
that helped the gameplay for me, like moving along to really kind of understand story more. Because I don't know if I would have sat and like read a paragraph after paragraph or whatever. But this game was actually put. Most games were put on a 16 megabyte cartridge. This one was shipped on a 32 megabyte cartridge because it had more than 45 minutes of voice cutscenes in it.
Oh, interesting.
That's a side note. Yeah, it was a little bit beefier of a drive that they made for it because of that fact. Nice. So I think that was one of the, probably to me, the only bright spot in the audio quality was that it had some voice to it, even though it wasn't great acting, So but I've heard some really bad acting on games nowadays, So anyway, so we've talked about graphics, gameplay, sound. Just kind of, is there anything else you guys wanted to touch about overall quality of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my thinking with this was, like what other games kind of came out around the same time, and I think my thinking is Half-Life 1 came out 2 years before this. And that game still, like, even if you play the original one, holds up. Now, granted, it's a computer game versus a console game, but computers at that time, I mean, that's still like essentially like Half-Life 1 could still kind of run on like a PlayStation. Yeah. Like it's a 32-bit game. It's not anything crazy. And when you look at like the audio quality, the graphics quality, the lighting, things like that, the gameplay, the fact that it has a full 360 axis and what have you versus this, it's so much better. And this is not a game that was impossible to do that with. Like if Half-Life came out 2 years before this, they could have taken this game, said, okay, we want to make GoldenEye, but we want to make it better, and had the joystick and had the C buttons be up, down, left, right as far as like strafing or looking or whatever you want to do. Yeah. Instead of having 2 joysticks, they could have very easily integrated all of those controls into an N64 controller, and they didn't. Now, there are emulators that will let you play this game, Perfect Dark, like that, like with a mouse and keyboard, however you want to do it. Or not emulate, but mods for the game, I should say. I mean, I guess you do have to play it on emulator at that point, but nonetheless, so it does feel a lot smoother. But the AI is so janky and awful because that's not how the game is meant to be played, that I don't feel like it would be any fun at that point if you did play it like that. So the whole thing really needs to take a step or 3 up from where it is to have longevity, because it has no longevity at all, in my opinion. Maybe a remaster with better AI, better graphics, and better controls would be fun to play. Like you said, that one came out in like 2010 or whatever, which I didn't even know happened. Something like that might be cool, but other than that, this is a nostalgia bin. Never played again. Put it in the back folder.
Yeah, you're talking about for the era and times, but you think about games like Metal Gear that came out 2 years, 3 years before this. Duke Nukem on place, and these are different platforms, obviously, and different type of thing, but trying to accomplish the same tactical kind of ops adventure game, and done so much better, way above. I'm looking at screenshots for Duke Nukem right now. So much of a better looking game, appealing, action wise, things like that. So I think Rare was just in a mode at that point in time where they were just pumping games out, and they were licensing them and pumping them and just getting them out like nothing,
Because I mean, they got like this and Donkey Kong Country and GoldenEye. They're just like blasting games out. Exactly.
They were making money, man. They were making money.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on them. I'm just saying, like, I think there could have been a lot if they would have put just a little more effort into making this game and doing a little more with the graphics and touching up some of the kind of the low spots in it. I think it would, or even just the way the game handled. I think it could have been something that was more intelligibly played. Even later in the years. But
yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, that's just kind of my take on it. Replayability, that's a no dog for me.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So, and I was maybe I had kind of an overhype to this game just because of how we talked last week, but it just, man, I don't think back then that I kind of have like remnants of memories of trying to play this game as a kid and like just not understanding like, oh, I got to get into the mission part of it, like my brother had it or something and I picked it up later after he was gone, kind of thing. So I have like memory remnants, but it never really stood out like a crazy amount to me. So
I mean, this was a big. Sorry, go ahead, Wes.
No, I was just saying, just going back to the fact that like Aaron touched on it before. This game, literally, the lowest score was 9.6 out of 10. So like,
it's wild.
Yeah, it was. I mean, literally, like GameSpot was saying that it was like unparalleled. The graphics and the AI and the multiplayer options were awesome. So like it at that time, it was it was such a freaking awesome game. But even the craziest thing is, even at that point, like you couldn't play it like competitively, like multiplayer or anything like that. And there was a lot of, I mean, even back then there was a competitive multiplayer scene with games because the frame rate was so like inconsistent. I don't know if you guys knows that too. But when there was like a lot of enemies or you were really trying to go for it,
slow it down.
It was it was really really slow. So I think this game was it for its time, it kind of did some cool things, and it did make me feel like even in the first level when you're in the like the high rise and you kind of look out and there's like ships like flying around and stuff. And there's the agents. Like I could see how like back in 2000 or even when we played, you're like, oh man, this is really cool. Like I'm a secret agent, and like you're right, the weapons were pretty cool. I think they were designed well, but it's just because we know what we know now. It's not even. It just doesn't. It just has zero out of 10 like replayability or hold up. And we have, like I've said, we've played games in the past month that I'm like, wow, like I could play this next week. Is it the newest version of Soul Calibur? No, but is it fun? And would I play it with you guys? Like, if you were like, hey man, like let's get on, like play a couple rounds of Soul's Edge. I'm like, yeah, no problem, man. Like, let's do it. Like, we'll just get in a Discord call and make fun of each other and actually play, because it's competitive. It ran smooth. The controls were really, really tight. This was just like, I see what they were trying to do, and they led the way to what we have now, which is incredible. Like games right now are like, we're coming up on a pinnacle for sure, or PS5. Like it's just getting better and better. The controls are good. People are thinking about it like a lot. It's not just, and right now where there's just a couple studios that are doing everything like Rare was. So I think it was cool. The idea of them doing this, and obviously what it's led to, is cool, because I did like kind of blaze some trails. But even if we're comparing even on 2000, you're right. There's so many other games that are like, man, this is way better. Like looking back on it, maybe at the time it was like flashy, like, oh, this is so cool. But if you just like maybe took 2 steps back and just looked at what was around it, like like the other ones, then I don't know.
Even like, and I was just thinking about other games that were out around this time, and I was just looking up Deus Ex. Deus Ex came out in July of 2000. The original Deus Ex, and that's another first-person shooter. It's a tactical shooter. It had RPG elements. It had a lot more going on for it. Again, it's a PC game, so grain of salt. But it looks better. It plays better. It has better environments. It's like the thing with Perfect Dark, I think that really like right now captures me is the different like weaponry is really neat. There's a lot of really fun little guns. Like you have the laser gun that can shoot through the walls and stuff like that. If you zoom in, it can like X-rays shoot through the walls, things like that. That are fun and neat. But just overall, like Weston said, there's so many other games that came out around this time that were better or just as good that still hold up to this day, and this does not. Perfect Dark does not, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I think unless there's anything you guys else want to say about the game, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think so too. Put a nail in this coffin.
Yeah.
There's only one thing to do, is to rank it. So
we need to rank it with minion death screams, I think.
Okay, that sounds good to me. How about the more death screams, the worse it was?
Give this a 20 out of 10. No.
Yeah. Okay, so what? Who wants to start? Aaron, do you want to start?
I'll start. I'll start us off here. So I think out of 10, I am gonna rate this normally, not higher than worse. I would probably give this like a 3 out of 10. As far as like playing it now, it doesn't hold up. Nothing about it holds up other than the kind of like nostalgia. The story's fun. The guns are fun. Shooting the gun sucks. Playing the game sucks. Listening to the game sucks. Having to endure going through the game sucks. So just all of that like combined, it was just a unfortunate experience. That's what I'll say. It was unfortunate, and it was really disappointing to see a game which I invested a lot of my youth in. It didn't make it. it didn't make it.
Yep, I'm right there with you. 3 out of 10 for me, and that basically echoes everything you said. Weston?
Yep. It's funny that you start off with that, because I had 3 out of 10 as well. I completely agree with everything you said. I think, hey, it's pretty crazy that it could be basically a 10 out of 10 when it first released and a 3 out of 10 now, but that's the reality of it. And I'm seeing a trend, at least with all of us, not for all the games, but a lot of them in the middle section of the retro, because obviously we have like the starting, which would be like the NES, and then probably the most recent ones we're playing are like Sega Dreamcast. Obviously we had a PS1 game last week that we did rate highly, but the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation, kind of when they started getting into 3D, I think we're gonna have the hardest time rating.
Yeah,
because of the fact that they're trying to get it into 3D, which is closer to our space now, and they were trying to do this and that, and because versus if we go on an NES game, the cool thing about a lot of NES games is they're epically simple, but they have an art style.
Right.
The music is actually pretty good on a lot of them, and they're fun. They're still fun. But like as we've gotten up to like Sega Saturn, PlayStation, and N64, and they started getting into like straight 3D graphics, I think these games are a lot like I'm much more critical on them because they were obviously it was like a learning like a growth period, and sometimes growing pains are hard. Yeah. And they are just not fun anymore. But it doesn't have to be that way. I know there's other games that we're going to play that are going to be good on these consoles.
Sure. And you know what it kind of reminds me of? It made me giggle a little bit earlier when you were talking about like silent films and stuff. It reminds me of the episode of Futurama where they find Zoidberg's like great uncle or whatever, and he was a comedian back in the silent film days, and they had like they were like hologram silent films, so it's like one step forward, two steps back kind of thing, where it's like a black and white hologram with no sound, but it's cool because it's a hologram and it's 3D, and that's kind of what it reminded me of. Like it's just some of these games, like you said, it's kind of like a step forward, two steps back sort of situation.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Well, all right, let's put a pin on that one. Just really quick, I hit the game gauntlet, and I did for PlayStation 1, and it gave me X-Men Children of the Atom. Does that sound good to you guys for next week?
Sure. I'm down for some X-Men.
I just clicked it once, and that's what it gave me, so I think I'm happy with that. I don't even know what this game is, so I'm ready to play it.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. We're just going to go the gauntlet.
It's the X-Men hentai game, but it's fine.
If something goes massively wrong, I'll send it to you. I'll send another one out. But all right, cool. All right, well, let's move on. I think it's trivia time, guys. Not much to talk about in the way of news. Not much to talk about in the way of news. So we're just gonna head straight into our trivia.
Yes, we are, Mason. Thank you for. Did you have something else to say?
I was going to say, take it away, Weston. So.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, obviously, I, the winner of last week's trivia, will be pitting two rivals together. Mason and Aaron are contenders. We have 10 questions from the Nintendo 64 genre. So, these are all centered around the Nintendo 64 because we played an N64 game, just like some of others have had themes. So, it goes as follows. Wait, how did we change the rules? Crap.
No, the rules didn't change. I just got to pull up Google really quick. Hold on a second.
Just our kind of ranking system changed. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we're just
cue the music. Let's do this.
Yeah. So we're just going through season 2 of trivia. Whoever has the most points and wins at the end of the season wins. So we're not going to do it. But yeah, same thing. Ding it in. I'm gonna read the question. You can answer at any point.
Yep.
If the second person obviously does not get it right, he can reread the questions and try. If neither get it right, it's an X. So you ready?
Yes.
Yep,
let's do it.
Okay. Question 1. What does the number 64 refer to in Nintendo 64?
Ding.
Ding.
That's Mason.
64-bit.
That is correct, my friend. Nintendo was a 64-bit system. The first Nintendo console with the capacity to support games with a 3-dimensional graphics.
I don't think either of us let you finish the question.
Well, hey, by the way, if neither one of you gotten that right, then we would have had a problem.
That's true. Yeah, that was like that was a softball right there.
But was it the first system to support 3-dimensional graphics? Bonus question. No, exactly. The first ones were Atari Jaguar 1993, Sega Saturn 94, Sony PlayStation 94.
Yes, sir.
Okay, question number 2. What were the first 2 3-dimensional games Nintendo released in North America? Super Mario 64 and Star Fox 64, Super Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie, Super Mario 64 and Pilot Wing 64.
Ding.
3?
Wait,
I'm going to say...
Did I read 3 or 4?
You read 3.
You read 3.
Oh, okay, sorry. D. Super Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time.
Ding.
Mason.
C. Pilot Wings and Mario.
That is correct, Mason.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, Super Mario 64 also proved to be the highest-selling game during the 64's career, as well as the 4th highest-selling Nintendo game, selling over 11 million copies worldwide. Pilot 64, however, only managed to sell about 1 million copies.
Yeah, you know why I knew that? Because when my parents bought me an N64, it was right around the time it came out. I wanted Mario, but you know what I got? Pilot Wings.
Pilot Wings.
Yeah. So this question. It was just part of the thing. We haven't answered, but it's a question that we've kind of talked about before.
Okay.
3. Which game for the Nintendo 64 has been most commonly referred to by gamers as the best game of all time, as well as of earning the 1998 Game of the Year award?
Ding.
Despite.
Sorry,
Aaron.
You weren't done. No, you weren't done finishing your sentence. Sorry.
You dinged in.
Okay, well, if you weren't done with the question. Well, you weren't done with the question, so.
Despite being only the 4th top-selling game of the system.
Ding. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It says Ocarina of Time was the most popular game ever released in the Legend of Zelda series and did manage to get the Game of the Year. It remains one of the only games to receive a perfect score from Nintendo Power, and it's 7th place on Game Informer's list of top 100 games of all time. But obviously it was only the 4th best-selling game of the system, which is pretty insane.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Okay, so Aaron 1, Mason 2. Question 4. Which of the following franchises did not start on the Nintendo 64? A. Mario Party. B. Banjo-Kazooie. C. Harvest Moon. D. Super Smash Brothers.
Ding.
That was Aaron.
Harvest Moon.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. Don't call it a comeback.
I'm pretty sure we dinged at the same time. But it's okay.
I heard myself ding way before you.
Yeah, it was close, but I definitely heard Aaron. I'm listening.
All right.
Close.
All
but
right.
anyway,
All
obviously there's some backstory that all the other games were the first on 64. Dude,
Yeah.
that's the cool craziest thing about 64. Side note: the amount of games that were like first on this one that they invented launch franchises are incredible. Like this changed the game. Okay, don't need to go into that. Number 5. Which of the following franchises did not have an installment for the Nintendo 64? A. F-Zero. B. Dr. Mario. C. Kirby. D. Metroid.
Ding.
Ding.
Mason.
Dr. Mario.
That is incorrect.
What?
Metroid.
That is correct.
There wasn't a Metroid? What?
Nope.
Yeah. The F-Zero franchise released its second game, F-Zero X, for the Nintendo 64, while Kirby franchise released the 6th game, Kirby 64, Crystal Shards, for the same system, and the Dr. Mario franchise released its second game, Dr. Mario 64, also for the Nintendo 64.
All right.
They plan to do Metroid Prime for the 64, but it was eventually delayed so long that it made it to the GameCube.
Okay. All right, cool. Neat.
Yep. Okay, so 2-2, correct? No, 2.
2-3.
2-3. Who's got 3?
Me.
Aaron.
Oh, because you got Harvest Moon and Dr. Mario, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. 2-3, Aaron.
I'm keeping score.
Question
There we go.
6. This game is the first ever to include the Mario character Waluigi, and also the first game in its series to be released on a popular console. Which game matches the description given? A. Mario Golf. B. Mario Kart 64. C. Mario Party. D. Mario Tennis.
Ding.
Aaron.
Mario Party.
That is incorrect.
Oh, all right. Okay. So, can you repeat the answers?
A. Mario Golf. B. Mario Kart 64. C. Mario Party. D. Mario Tennis.
Okay. Mario Golf.
Wow, you guys didn't get that? Incorrect.
It was tennis. It was
Mario Tennis was released in 2000. Was indeed the first game to feature a character who is both Luigi's counterpart and Wario's cousin.
Yeah, because golf came out after tennis. I couldn't remember what came out first.
Yeah, Waluigi, who has appeared on almost every Mario multiplayer game since.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. 2-3, and that question is next. Question 7. Which of the following differences between the Nintendo 64 controller and the SNES controller is incorrect? Okay? Incorrect. A. The SNES controller lacks a Z button. B. The Nintendo 64 controller lacks a D-pad. C. The Nintendo 64 controller lacks an X and Y button. D. The SNES controller lacks a C button.
Ding.
Ding.
Mason.
It would be, let's see, B, right, with the D-pad question. The D-pad.
That is incorrect.
Wait, what did you say there? What was the N64 lacks a D-pad?
The N64 controller lacks a D-pad.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had it backwards. Sorry.
So the answers are, it's basically it's a false. I'm trying to guess the false.
Which of the that's why I read it like in that way. Yeah. Which of the following differences between the N64 controller and the Super Nintendo controller is incorrect?
Okay. False. All right. So can you read them again? Other than the D-pad one.
The SNES controller lacks a Z button. The Nintendo 64 controller lacks an X and a Y button. D. The SNES controller lacks C buttons. Don't overthink this. This one's easy.
No, yeah. Well, it's not the Z button or the C button one, so it was the other one.
That is incorrect.
Wait.
Oh wait. No.
Yeah,
hey, by the way, I messed up. Mason was right.
Yes, I was like, what's going on?
Like, what are you talking about right now? This is so confusing.
I confused myself. Oh crap. Hey, by the way. Okay. Yes, you are correct.
Oh my god.
The Nintendo 64 controller lacks a D-pad.
Totally fine.
I'm sorry. No, you can keep it in there. I mean, I just messed up.
Double negative garbage out of my face.
All right, it is 3-3. Let's just go on to the next question.
Holy crap.
All right. So
Okay. 3-3, question 8. Was the Super Mario Brothers movie starring Bob Hoskins released during the Nintendo 64 era? A. There was...
No. False. Wait, you said was the
I'm sorry, that counts as your answer. Like, that's gotta just be your answer.
Yeah, that's fine.
What did you say? No.
Yeah,
he said dig.
That is correct.
All right.
There was a live-action Super Mario Brothers movie starring Bob Hoskins as Mario, but it was made in 1993.
Okay,
during the SNES era, not the N64. Very nice. Okay, 4-3.
So 4-3. We got 2 questions left.
2 questions left, so you have to get this one. And there's a tiebreaker.
Oh my god! All right, here we go.
Okay, which of the following games was not anticipated for the Nintendo 64 disk drive? Fire Emblem 64, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, The Legends of Zelda Ocarina of Time Master Quest.
Okay, can you read that question again?
Which of the following games was not anticipated for the Nintendo 64 disk drive?
Yeah, I already dung. It's Majora's Mask.
That is incorrect.
Okay, can you read the other options again?
Yeah. Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem.
That is incorrect as well.
Oh, what?
Oh, God.
And just read this. The Nintendo 64 disk drive was an expansion to the Nintendo 64. Because the system used game disc, the first Nintendo system to do so. However, it was only released in Japan and then was discontinued soon after, which only 9 games were released. The anticipated titles were either made for the original Nintendo 64, made for the GameCube if used later, or canceled. Majora's Mask was on Nintendo 64. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Master Quest, known in Japan as Eura Zelda, was released with the original Ocarina of Time game for the GameCube. Fire Emblem 64 was completely canceled, delaying the North American release of Fire Emblem further. The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker was never anticipated for the Nintendo 64 disk drive, simply designed and successfully produced for the GameCube.
All right, so it was Wind Waker then.
It was Wind Waker. Okay, now this is the last question and the winner, correct?
All right. I'm
It'd be a tie
ahead of Aaron.
Okay, yeah, there's going to be a tie. There'd be a tie, and then I need to get a bonus question correct. Okay. Which of the following was the last Nintendo 64 game Nintendo released in North America, which also happened to be the only Nintendo 64 game released in 2002? A. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. B. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. C. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. D. Mario Party 3.
Dang.
Aaron.
Tony Hawk 2.
That is incorrect.
No!
Okay. All right. Well, I won, so I'm going to say Tony Hawk 3.
That is correct.
Yeah.
While Tony Hawk's
It's
Pro
a
Skater
great-
3 was the last North American release for the N64, it was an early game for some 6th generation systems, namely the GameCube, Xbox, PlayStation 2. It was also released for Game Boy Color, Advance, and Sony PlayStation. Mario Party 3 was one of the last first-person games for the N64, but it was released about a year earlier than Tony Hawk's.
That's
All
a
right.
swing right there. Swing and a miss. Swing and a
Man,
miss.
dude, I thought you were so far ahead, but that's why, hey, gotta put your feet in the dirt, keep on grinding.
That was bonkers. That was bonkers right there.
Oh, man. So
I like
that
those
was,
matches though, because it was back and forth. I
That
had
was.
the lead,
Yeah,
Aaron
that
had
was
the
back
lead,
and
and then I
forth,
came in at the end.
I'm glad that
lead by 1.
No, you were up 3-0 at one point.
No, he had 2. He was
I was
2-0, and then I was
and then
3-2,
Aaron came back.
and then he was 4-3. Yeah.
Oh, so Mason did basically have the lead there.
That was a tennis game.
And
That
then
wasn't
I won
Romo with
5-3,
2 minutes
by
left.
the way.
That wasn't Romo with 2 minutes left. That was a
No.
tennis match. You're good.
No, yeah, for sure.
Dude, you never want to be Romo with 2 minutes left.
Yeah,
I don't care.
collarbone.
I'm gonna say I don't care how good you think you are. You never want to be Romo with 2 minutes left because you're gonna die.
Or apparently in the preseason. Ruined
Yeah.
the
Truth.
season.
That's truth.
All right. Well, I think that's
That's
it,
the
guys.
cast. Yeah.
So next week it'll be Aaron versus Weston, and I will be making the question. So
Nice.
stay tuned. I'm gonna write them.
All right.
Who is the best?
Do any double
host
negative
on-
garbage.
Rank the hosts 1 to 3.
I'm 4th, whatever that means.
Oh.
Bags.
Well, Spencer
All right.
did do one episode with us, so you might have to be 4.
Oh man, we gotta get
Oh, I
Spencer
know.
on. We should
I
get him
know.
on. That'd be cool to do a round table.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
All right, man. Well, one day I'll release that lost episode. I'm gonna dig it up and see how horrible it is. But all right. So next week, X-Men: Children of Adam for the PlayStation. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
That's the worst outro ever. Bye.
Bye.
Until next time. I'll see you next time.
Yeah. Wow.
If you'd like to send us a message, you can email us at kitgpodcast@gmail.com or tweet us at kitgpodcast on Twitter.